Is there any love that you couldn't confess when you were young? It's been in my mind for decades. Do you know that it's a regret that follows you for the rest of your life? Today, I'm walking around in front of the same flower shop. If I said it then, reflecting on the love that you couldn't reach in the end. An old lady's story. In the late afternoon, in front of a small florist on the high street, Lee Jung-hee, an 87-year-old old lady, walked slowly with a cane. It stopped in front of the window of the florist. A red rose, a white lily, a yellow freesia. It was in full bloom. People saw it all the time. Every day at the same time, at the same place. The way she stood for a long time looking at the flowers, but no one knew why. The time goes back to 1965. 20-year-old Jung-hee comes to Seoul from the countryside. I worked in a sewing machine factory. Even in the midst of a hard day, there was a moment that made her flutter. Flower shop at the end of the alley on the way home. Han Do-yoon, a young man who always bought flowers there. Jung-hee only looked at him from afar. Do-yoon always smiles and chooses a bouquet of flowers. I greeted the florist kindly. Jung-hee's heart jumped for no reason. For a few months, Jung-hee, I never spoke to Do-yoon. I didn't have the courage. And then one day, I saw Do-yoon waiting for someone with flowers. The woman who showed up a little later. He smiled brightly as he handed over the flowers. Jung-hee's heart sank. After that day, she didn't find a chance to talk to her anymore. Time goes by, Jung-hee is married and raised children. It was seemingly a normal life, but in the back of my mind, there was always a smile of a young man in front of the flower shop. My husband died. Even after the kids all became independent, Jung-hee couldn't forget. I didn't have the courage to say a word at that time. Since I was over 70, Jung-hee started looking for the same florist every day. The florist changes the owner. The interior has changed a few times. It's always been the same for Jung-hee. Whenever I was hanging around there, it was as if he was facing himself in his youth. Jung-hee, the owner of the flower shop. At some point, he began to look at the old lady. One day, she plucked up her courage and asked, "Grandmother, aren't you going to buy flowers?" Jung-hee smiled after a moment of silence. "No, it's just, you come to see the flowers." Jung-hee didn't ask anymore. But in her eyes, I felt that there was a story hidden that I couldn't tell. One day, Jung-hee was in a small notebook. I began to write down memories of my youth. Do-yoon, I regret not being able to say a word to you in my life. It doesn't matter who you loved. I just remembered that smile all my life. The notebook got thicker and thicker. It became her life record. On a spring day, Jung-hee stood in front of the flower shop for the last time, looking at the roses blooming through the window. I murmured quietly, "Do-yoon, I should stop letting you go now. But thanks to you, my youth shone." Tears formed in her eyes. A calm smile spread around the mouth. A few days later, Jung-hee was on the bench in front of the flower shop. I found Jung-hee's notebook. It's been in there for decades. A woman's love and regret were intact. Jung-hee carefully left her notebook inside the flower shop. It was always remembered with the scent of flowers. The old lady in front of the flower house. It was a story where one lack of courage led to lifelong regret. We often love something we couldn't say. I live with it buried in my heart. But even that memory, it is also a memory that makes our lives shine. Do you have any idea? Isn't there a moment when you hesitated in front of the flower shop?